Hey YouTube, it's Button Up Reviews. Today we're going to be reviewing Akame Kill. It's been a while, to say the least. I haven't uploaded a video in like a month, which probably isn't doing me much good, but I went on vacation and I'm back, and that's what matters. So we'll just leave it at that. And you may have noticed my hair is kind of gone. So it's not gone. I shaved my head over my vacation, but that doesn't matter. Today we're reviewing Akame Kill, and I didn't have a lot of expectations going into this anime, but I didn't leave with much. So keep that in mind. And there will be spoilers in this video. If you have not seen Akame Kill already, it is on Netflix, at least in North America, so there's that. I know that Netflix is kind of weird when it comes to certain shows, because there will be some shows in different regions and blah blah blah, but I wanna target like 3 or 4 things in this review. I want to target the story, I want to target the characters, and I want to target like the animation and soundtrack. First one is the story, and our story follows Tatsumi, who is this kind of country bumpkin guy, and he's leaving his village to go to the capital. Yes, this place is just named the capital. There isn't like any name for it that's mentioned throughout the entire series. So there's that. So he's going to the capital, and he basically just wants money so he can help his village, and he gets separated from his friends along the way there, and then he's like on the streets because he lost all his money, and then this rich girl shows up, and she's like, why don't you stay the night where I live? And he's like, yeah, sure. Never do that, stranger danger, right? And so what happens is he ends up staying there, and while they're eating dinner, this rich girl's like, there's this elusive assassin group called Night Raid that goes and assassinates people, and Tatsumi is just like, oh, okay. And so later that night, Night Raid shows up, and they start killing people, and at first it's like oh whoa, why are they doing this? Until the girl runs off to the shed in the back, and Tatsumi goes and defends her, only to find out that, plot twist, the rich people are actually really scummy, and his friends that Tatsumi got separated by are in there, and they were tortured to death. So that's the start to the series, and from there it's kind of just like a downward spiral, because the show has a decent premise at the start. It fails to establish its locations. One thing that's very underappreciated in a lot of anime and manga is good world building. The locations need to have names. Tatsumi's village can't just be the village, and the capital can't just be the capital. They need to have actual names to them to kind of give you like an idea of where they are and like attachment to them. But whatever, you can let it slide for this kind of, but with how much his village is mentioned, it gets really noticeable after a while. But moving on, the members of Night Raid are introduced, and they pick up Tatsumi, and he is in their rebellion group to destroy the corrupt government. So that's the basic plot. And there are a couple missions that they go on, and there's a little bit of character building. Not really. It's them really just fighting like people in the government until they fight this girl soldier whose name I cannot remember, and they establish this rule with these things called Imperial Arms. Now, Imperial Arms are basically kind of like the superpowers of this show. Like, it's what makes each character have their own unique superpower, and this girl has a living one named Koro, and Koro is like this weird dog thing that I I don't even know what it does, because later in the show, it like she'll like put her hand like in its mouth and it'll like give her like gun arms and stuff. It's so weird. But basically the whole plot with the Imperial arms is that there was this king that created them because he knew he was gonna die, and he still wanted his like kingdom to have power. And there's this rule that's set up where if Imperial arms users get in a fight, one of them dies. This rule's broken. Like, like you can't establish a rule so early on in the series and then end up breaking it. And it's broken like 2 times, I'm pretty sure. It might be even more than that. It's just in the anime that I can remember it being broken. But they fight this girl, and one of the members of Night Raid dies. And when I was watching this, I was like, "Oh wow, she's really just dead." Especially because right before she had like a heartfelt moment with Tatsumi, and she helped him like grieve the loss of his friends. And I was like, "Wow, they really just killed her off." But what I failed to kind of accept is that the show basically just kills off every single character. I feel like literally every episode or like every other episode there's a character death. And when that's happening, you can't give each character the proper amount of time to establish themselves. Sure, some of them have some pretty messed up deaths. Like there's this character later on in the series that gets introduced into Night Raid called Chelsea, and she has a pretty messed up death. But you know what? I wasn't very attached to her because most of the characters in the show just have one character trait and they just take it and run. They just go as far as they can with this one trait. Like Leone is big sister type character. Bulat is big brother type character. Mine, Lolly character. And mine, oh my gosh, she has an imperial arm called Pumpkin, and she makes sure to remind you that because every time she's in a fight, she's like, "My gun, Pumpkin, gets stronger whenever I'm in a pinch." And then it always ends up being this giant explosion, which back to the whole plot of Imperial Arms, it's this like king, this ancient king that created them. How does he create a gun? How does he just create a living animal in the form of that one soldier that killed a main character earlier? It doesn't make any sense. Sorry. But pretty much every character in Akame ga Kill that's in the main cast ends up dying. And I would say I didn't see it coming, but I'd be lying, honestly. As soon as they started killing, as soon as Bullet died, and that one episode where he's fighting those people under Esdeath. Esdeath is her own thing. I'll get into her in a little bit. But as soon as he died, I was like, okay, they have no hesitation killing off main characters, so they're probably gonna do it. And oh boy was I right. Holy moly, they kill off like literally everyone in the show. Even Tatsumi, they end up killing in the end. And basically the ending of the anime, they do overthrow the government and achieve their goal. But the only 2 people to make it out alive are Akame and the leader of Night Raid, Najenda. And oh my gosh, these characters. Moving on to the character aspect, because I already talked about the main story. As I said, a lot of the characters just have one thing and they just run with it. Najenda is one of the most boring anime characters I've seen in a little while. Basically, her entire personality revolves around her being the stern, put together leader of Night Raid, and she's just so boring. Anytime that she's on screen, I'm just like, is there a more interesting character I can watch? Please? Or did you already kill them off? And she has this metal arm that's, like, from my knowledge, never explained. And I'm just sitting here like, why does she have it? What's the backstory behind this? And yeah, like I said, Chelsea and this other guy named Susano, however you want to pronounce it, get introduced later on in the series, and they never get enough time to develop. So when they both die, I'm just like, I mean, they're dead, but I don't really feel any attachment towards them. just like, I don't care. Because they just have one trait. Susanoo is just almost as boring as Najenda is. All he is just, he's an Imperial arm. How does that work? Again, how did this king create like a person? I it doesn't make any sense. It just don't make no sense. And Chelsea's whole character was just like mischievous assassin girl, and it's like, really? You couldn't have done any more with it? And after like, because like Tatsumi sees like almost all the characters die, right? And there's supposed to be this like this heart-wrenching moment where he sees them die, and he's broken and he's crying, and it's, I don't care. I don't have enough time to get attached to these characters where I care about them enough to, when I see them die, I'm like, that sucks. That doesn't happen. It's not like, spoilers for Naruto Shippuden. So I'm gonna give you a 5-second warning, okay? 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi. That was some pretty fast counting. But when Neji died in Naruto Shippuden, I was like, come on. Why'd it happen? Because at the start of the series, when Neji is established, his main goal is that he believes in destiny. He knows that he's going to die protecting the main branch of the Hyuga clan. And you know what? That's what happens. But Naruto comes in and convinces him. He's like, hey, destiny isn't real. Believe in yourself. Believe it. And Neji's like, okay. Like, Neji gets talk no jutsu. But you know what? It ends up happening in the end. Neji was right. Neji was always right. And his death is like actually impactful. And what sucks in Naruto is like none of the characters really care. Like, Neji dies and everyone's like, no, Neji. Anyways, it's just, like, it's so weird. But back to Akame ga Kill. The characters are just so mediocre. And I said I'd mention, I said earlier that I'd talk about Esdeath, and her entire character is just, it's kind of a mess, to be honest. The only redeeming quality she has is that she's hot, and that, and in the anime, they like exaggerate her attractiveness like so much, because I did some research, right? I went and I looked at differences between the anime and the manga, because when I finished this show, I was like, okay, I gotta watch a review on this to know if like I'm not the only one that noticed these flaws. And this guy pointed out like how exaggerated Esdeath's her chest is in the anime, and it's like, I don't know. It's like they're just trying to get people to watch their show. I don't know, but basically your character is she's this like sadistic, evil army general, but then she has this whole character arc. If you can even call it an arc, it isn't really an arc. Let's be honest here. It's just this kind. You know, in a video game when you're playing and there's like a side quest that you got to do, and you have to do it before you can continue in the story. That's what this whole arc feels like. Basically, she wants to marry Tatsumi, right? But obviously Tatsumi is like, she's evil. No, and it's just so. What's the right word? It just halts the progress of the story so much. Like, it really doesn't mean anything in the end. And back to what I mentioned earlier about Najenda and Akame being the only characters that make it out in the end. They don't really say anything about any of the other members of Night Raid. Because once the show is all done and they're standing up on top of the rubble, looking at the sunset, like, yeah, we saved the world. They don't mention anyone like that died. They aren't even like, damn, Tatsumi died. No, they don't care. It's so frustrating, because if they put some thought into it, these characters would be mourning the deaths of those who sacrifice themselves to achieve the end goal. But that's not what happens, and it's just so frustrating. So, yeah, the characters in this show can be kind of a mess sometimes, and they really only have one trait, but they aren't like terrible. They can still be enjoyable. I'm not saying like they're the worst written characters of all time, but it's just they're so average, and some of the things they do just don't make any sense. Like Estheth, why she wants love if she's some sadistic army general that kills innocent people. It just doesn't make any sense. But the final point I want to make is the animation and the soundtrack. Now, usually a lot of people don't pay as much attention to the soundtrack. Me, it's complicated because if I notice a good soundtrack, then I'm like, that was really good. Like Attack on Titan's soundtrack is phenomenal. There's so many good songs. But if it's just like an average anime, then I'm just like, okay, whatever. Like, I love music. Music is my passion. I have my guitar, my bass. I have a trombone, a ukulele, a keyboard, a recorder all over there. But if there's like an average soundtrack or even a like below average soundtrack, I'm just like, whatever. Because in the end, it isn't as detrimental to a series as animation could be. Now, Akame ga Kill doesn't have bad animation. In fact, like near the ending episodes, it gets pretty good if you ask me. But throughout most of the show, it isn't anything to like write home about. Like I said with Attack on Titan had some phenomenal animation sequences. Like Studio Wit did such a good job. And Mappa has some really good animation sequences too. Don't hate on Mappa, okay? Mappa didn't do anything wrong, alright? But yeah, the animation, especially near the ending episodes, was really good. Estheth and Akame's fight was actually pretty nice, except near the end when Estheth goes and like cradles Tatsumi's dead body, like, I love you, oh, I love you, and then she freezes herself, and then psh, it like shatters, and then they turn into dust. What? How does that make any sense? I don't know. And with the soundtrack, there aren't any particular songs that would play in like the background that I was just like jamming out to when they come on. But the openings for the show, the first one is like, it's an alright opening, but that second opening though, like this second opening goes so hard for no reason. It has no business going this hard. Like, what? Why? Bangers. These openings are bangers. I don't care what anyone says. But Akame ga Kill, what a show. I'm sure that if you watched it, you either liked it, felt neutral, or didn't like it. I haven't came across anyone that's like, Akame ga Kill is my favorite anime of all time. Like, it's not the best thing ever, but it isn't like completely terrible, Like there are much worse anime that you can watch out there, which is why I think I'm gonna have to give this show a 5 out of 10. It's just right in the middle, 5 out of 10 for me, because it's not terrible, but there just isn't really a lot of redeeming qualities to it. So I don't see why like I should like it. You know what I'm saying? But that's how I feel. Thank you for watching this video if you stayed like all the way through. It really means a lot to me, especially after like I've been gone for a month. So it's nice to know that there will probably be people that still watch me, and especially because Akame ga Kill is not a very popular series. If I'm remembering correctly, the anime is like almost 10 years old, so so it's a little old to say the least. But yeah, thank you. I'm not gonna try and do any of that like typical YouTuber like, if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, because I don't know, I'm not like that. I don't like to force feed people things. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, thanks for watching. As I already said, I've been gone for a while, but tomorrow I should have another review prepared. I want to do a music review of Tyler the Creator's new album. So I guess stay tuned for that if I do end up uploading it. So yeah, have a great day, and thanks for stopping by.